We are so here. Ladies and gentlemen, what's goody? It's your boy, so Co. You can also call me OSK. Either or either is going to convey the same way. And ladies and gentlemen, I am excited about this one. So excited. I've always wanted to do this. It was suggested in my first WWE video. And I said, you know what? Eventually I'm going to get around to this. And so now I've decided it's time. I'm here to tell y'all who I think my favorite wrestlers are and who I think the best wrestlers are. So how can I do that, you may say? I put together Mount Rushmores. Now, Mount Rushmores have been popular recently in all sorts of facets. You have sports, of course. This is a sport. You can talk about music Mount Rushmores, entertainment, actresses, actors, whatever it may be. So I'm gonna bring y'all the wrestling Mount Rushmores. Now these are definitive. You cannot argue these. So the first one I'm gonna show you is going to be who I think is the best wrestler in the world, or who I think are the best wrestlers in the world. And then my second one is gonna be who I think are, or who are my favorite wrestlers of all time. So we'll start this off. I'm gonna go ahead and jump right into it. But before I do begin, please make sure to like, comment, and subscribe. Liking, of course, just helps us build that ratio up. Comment, leave some suggestions down below. And subscribe is going to help me build a fan base here and provide more content, of course. And also, haven't mentioned this before, click that bell notification button down there so you can get notified when more videos like these drop. Let's go ahead and begin with the first Mount Rushmore here. I have what I consider to be the best wrestlers in the world. So we're going to first begin with Shawn Michaels. Now, Shawn Michaels has been wrestling for a while now. He started his pro wrestling career in the 80s. Now, Shawn Michaels is a multi-time WWE champion. He's a Triple Crown winner, a two-time Hall of Famer. He headlined several pay-per-views, of course. He was voted the most popular wrestler of the year. And he's ranked number 1 in the top 500 professional wrestlers by Pro Wrestling Illustrated in 1996. Now, I want to emphasize that last one. He was voted number 1 in 1996 in the top 500 professional wrestlers. Shawn Michaels has 2 primes. He wrestled in the 90s. It was going bat crazy, right? Putting on classes with Bret Hart, with The Undertaker, the British Bulldog, Owen Hart. He has a resume there, right? One of the greatest heel turns of all time. You know, he put on classics in the 90s. You go back and look at some of the work he did, he was by far the best wrestler. Then he had to take a 4-year hiatus there after he hurt his back in a wrestling match against The Undertaker. Sidelined him for a little bit. He came back in 2002 and immediately started putting on bangers. You go back and look at Triple H versus Shawn Michaels. That entire rivalry is crazy. And then he had some banger matches against Kurt Angle. He even put on a showcase against John Cena. Now, we know John Cena isn't renowned for his wrestling ability. So for him to have went and, main evented a WrestleMania nonetheless against John Cena, put it on that showcase, and then not only that, they had a classic on the Raw after Mania. That was an even better match than the WrestleMania one. But I think Shawn was consistent through in and throughout. And for him to have 2 separate primes and to be that good for that long. And let's talk about the end of his career, right? Well, I guess not his most recent showing, because that match against Undertaker and Kane in Saudi Arabia wasn't the best. But his 2 matches against Undertaker are classics. WrestleMania 25, without a doubt, that might go down as the greatest wrestling match of all time. Not WrestleMania match, but the greatest wrestling match. So I got to give a nod to Shawn Michaels. I think he is one of the best wrestlers of all time. He's multi-generational, multi-talented. He can really do it all. Next up, I have The Undertaker. Now, I think this is going to be a bit controversial because I think you would probably expect him to be on more of a favorite wrestler of all time list, considering that one, you have the persona of the dead man, The Undertaker, as opposed to the actual in-ring work. But I think for a man with that stature, for that size, and also consistent, Undertaker is crazy in the ring. This is a man that we're talking about is going over the top rope doing suicide dives, balancing himself on the top ropes. He's very agile, but he's also a powerhouse. He can pick up the heaviest wrestlers, body slam them, put you up all the way up here, slam you down for the last ride. Technical, I think he was a pretty underrated technical wrestler as well. And then he was very fast, right? Like he's running off the ropes at high speeds. This man was crazy. I guess I'll talk about some of his accolades as well. I think the most obvious one is the undefeated streak at WrestleMania that once was. It came to an end, of course, at WrestleMania 30 against Brock Lesnar. But he did go on a 21 win streak, which is crazy, right? Because first of all, he's competing at this many Manias. Secondly, he's winning, right? He put on bangers during that time as well. The Shawn Michaels matches were amazing. We mentioned those previously. But the Triple H matches, and we always talk about the 2 matches against Triple H at WrestleMania 27 and 28. Brother, go back and watch the WrestleMania X7 match. Classic. Even the match against Ric Flair at 18 was pretty good. The match against CM Punk was amazing. I think kind of the only dud he went on a stretch, I would say, between WrestleMania 21 all the way through to 29, which almost every match was a banger. I would eliminate the Mark Henry match. And then after the Brock Lesnar loss, he even picked it back up with the Bray Wyatt match. And the Shane McMahon match was fun. So I would give him a lot of credit. He was also a 4-time WWF champion, a 3-time World Heavyweight champion, which ultimately makes him a 7-time World Champion. He even held the Hardcore Championship, and I think that heel run was amazing. So yeah, Undertaker's going on that list for best wrestlers. I really think his in-ring work is amazing. Up next, I think this one is probably undisputed. A lot of people have this man and Shawn Michaels on every list when you talk about best wrestlers of all time. Another man whose work is timeless, I would say. You can watch it in the 90s, in the 2000s, in the 2010s, and it'll be replicated like no other. And that is Bret Hart. Yeah, the excellent execution, bro. 5-time WWF champion. He also won a WCW World Heavyweight Championship twice. 2-time Intercontinental champion. I think one thing that we gloss over a lot with Bret Hart is that he's a 2-time King of the Ring winner. Now, so a lot, that may not seem like much, right? But if you think about what the King of the Ring is and what it's supposed to accomplish, they are setting the standard that this man is the best wrestler. Now, of course, that doesn't go for a lot of the King of the Rings, and that'll be a whole other video in itself, the King of the Ring lore and all the winners. But to have won that twice goes to show you that WWE had a lot of trust in Bret Hart as their best worker. We also didn't mention that he's a Royal Rumble winner. He is a Triple Crown winner as well. He also was inducted into the Hall of Fame. And, you know, overall, he's a 7-time world champion with the standards of WWE combined with WCW. But Bret Hart put on bangers. Bret Hart versus Owen Hart. That was a classic at WrestleMania 10. Bret Hart Shawn, that entire rivalry. Bret Hart and Stone Cold Steve Austin at WrestleMania 13. Go back and watch that match. If you are a non-wrestling fan, I think that is one of the best introductions. If you want to get a retro feel and kind of like want to start at a certain point prior to the current modern generation, I would definitely recommend starting there. We call it the double turn, of course, because the storytelling there was amazing. But Bret Hart himself was an outstanding generational wrestler. He derives from a family of talented wrestlers as well. The entire Hart family basically put on bangers night in and night out. Bret Hart, I would say the only blemish on his resume would be the return in 2010. But even then, that was more or less just giving him his flowers for just being Bret Hart ultimately. But he definitely deserved better. I wish he would have had a longer prime, a more sustained prime. And last on my list, if you know me, this is who I think is the best wrestler of all time. He's always mentioned in the conversations of best wrestler of all time, but I don't hear too many people say that he is outright definitively their best wrestler, and I don't see how. That person is no other than Kurt Angle, also known as Peak Angle. Olympic gold medalist, right? We're gonna go off rip and say that what an accomplishment, right? Winning a gold medal with a broken freaking neck. Are you kidding me, bro? So he did that. He's also a multiple-time world champion in WWE. He was the first person to kick out of the F5, 2-time NCAA champion and National Wrestling Hall of Famer. Of course, WWE Hall of Famer as well. But Kurt Angle was a dog, right? It amazes me that Kurt Angle does not have a 5-star match under his resume. Kurt Angle put on bangers against Shawn Michaels, against Chris Jericho, against Chris Benoit, Samoa Joe in TNA, AJ Styles in TNA. You know, that whole triangle of wrestlers right there is amazing in itself. But for Kurt Angle to have done it and come in as an amateur wrestler, straight up dominated. I talked about him in tier ranking every year of wrestling, so you are well aware that Kurt Angle, of course, to me is the best wrestler of all time. The year 2000 was a crazy stretch. 01 was also a crazy stretch. I think that's really where he made a name for himself. I know 2000 technically was, but 2001 he basically carried WWE during the invasion angle. He was essentially the top babyface since they did this weird heel turn with them. But nonetheless, the Kurt Angle Brock Lesnar rivalry was amazing. Kurt Angle Edge, like, he just has really good matches all the time. Kurt Angle Undertaker at No Way Out prior to WrestleMania 22, banger. The triple threat between him, Rey Mysterio, and Randy Orton, banger. It was a quick banger, but it was a banger nonetheless. Kurt Angle, to me, is the epitome of talent because he was great on the mic and he was great in the ring. Technical prowess, submission specialist, all of the above. All right, so that was the conclusion of the best wrestler list, right? Or the best wrestler Mount Rushmore. Now I'm going to move on to who I think are my favorite wrestlers, and this is more of a fun segment. Now this is, you know, a selection of wrestlers, whether they're good in the ring or not. I think that they are just overall the best bodies of work that a wrestling personality can have or have, you know. I think this is a huge cold take, right? I think this will be a lot of people's favorite wrestler, one of, and it's The Rock. Now, most of you may know him as Dwayne Johnson nowadays, but before he was the multi-millionaire movie actor Dwayne Johnson, The Rock was an 8-time WWE champion, 2-time Intercontinental champion, 5-time tag team champion, won the Royal Rumble, and is also a Triple Crown champion. The Rock, bro, personality like no other, right? We talk about charisma, we talk about all of that. The Rock was amazing on the mic, right? He was funny, and even when he was a heel, he was still funny and charming, but was also a bit serious at times, right? When The Rock gets in his serious bag, he gets serious. Nation Domination Rock is one of the best forms of him. Corporate Rock is very fun. The People's Champ Rock is my personal favorite. I know a lot of people, it's Hollywood Rock, and I get that as well. The Final Boss Rock is creeping up though. That is a really good version of The Rock. But yeah, he's always gonna be my favorite, or one of my favorites, because The Rock was probably my introduction into wrestling as far as like the video games go. He was one of the early personalities that stood out. You get on the game and you see this guy with this amazing entrance and entrance music. I have to give him a lot of credit for that, but The Rock's gonna be the first person on my Mount Rushmore today. Second, John Cena. Has to be John Cena, right? He's on his retirement tour right now. He is a 16-time world champion, hoping to beat that record of Ric Flair's. John Cena, nonetheless, is a dog, right? Like I said previously, he is the first person I saw on TV, him and Carlito, who he's one of those people that got me into wrestling as a kid as well. The never give up moniker stood out. Loyalty, respect, all that stuff, right? Like, John Cena was amazing, bro. And then also, not only that, I think John Cena was one of those people that, albeit he was built as this underdog, I'm like, bro, this man is picking up the great Khali. Same with Umaga and these giants. The arm wrestling with him and Mark Henry, and Mark Henry's built as the world's strongest man. The way they presented him throughout my time as a youth was amazing. His return at the Royal Rumble in 2008 was outstanding. Him and CM Punk. Him and The Rock was even fun for a little bit before it became twice in a lifetime. The Open Challenge, the US Open Challenge, the matches against AJ Styles, against Daniel Bryan. You know, John Cena has a pretty good resume. I think what I like about John Cena is too, you know, if you put him in the ring with a talented wrestler, he's going to put on a show. I think he's one of those people that can really match up well with who his opponent is and loves to wrestle that way. One of my most underrated performances from John Cena, however, is at ECW One Night Stand 2006. He basically came into that event as a heel, albeit he was a babyface, and he played his role to a T. And I think when John Cena's back is against the wall, he does a really good job. So John Cena's number 2 on that list. On to number 3. This, to all you all probably know, is my favorite wrestler of all time. Debuted at the same in the same year as John Cena. Had a bit of a different trajectory. Had won a World Heavyweight Championship prior to John Cena, but they intertwined a lot. Had a decent rivalry there, and that man is going to be the Viper, the Legend Killer, Randy Orton. Yes, I said it. That is my favorite wrestler of all time. Despicable Me, Randy Orton. That man, the RKO, perhaps the greatest finisher of all time. It's debatable. I would say it's between that and the Stone Cold Stunner, and the F5 is up there as well. His run with Legacy was fun. His run with Evolution was cool. Rated RKO was fun. But once he started to get onto his own, and he started slowly transforming from the Legend Killer to the Viper, generational TV, right? Now, of course, that was a time that I previously mentioned. John Cena was like this baby face that overcame adversity. Randy was a despicable heel, right? So he got on my nerves. But I look back on it with hindsight, Randy Orton was talented, man. He's talented in the ring. He's slow and methodical. But not only that, Randy Orton plays his role as a heel very well. But here's another thing. Another scorcher of a hot take here. I like face Randy Orton. Like that 2010-2011 run was so good to me, bro. I think he played that role very good as the anti-hero. Randy Orton turning on Daniel Bryan, cashing in Money in the Bank. Top 5 cash-ins of all time, maybe even top 3. Him and Kevin Owens were in a great rivalry there as well. The RKO is just such a good move, man. Like, I think that's what's giving him a lot of weight too. But he's a talented worker, and I have to give him his praise. I didn't even go over his accolades. How could I? He's a 14-time WWE champion, 1-time Intercontinental champion, 1-time US champion, 3-time Tag Team champion, 2-time Royal Rumble winner, which is 09 and 17. He's won Money in the Bank. He's a Grand Slam champion. So, hey. So Randy Orton's talented, man. Randy Orton's talented. I got to give it to him. And then the last wrestler on the list. Now, this one may be a bit controversial. I think his recent work is what's going to give him the edge above a lot of guys. Very talented individual as well. Ground the mic. And believe it or not, has a lot of intertwining connections with the other 3 I previously mentioned. Basically, all of them do. The last but not least, we have Chick Magnet Punk. Also known as CM Punk. CM Punk, man. 2-time WWE champion. 3-time World Heavyweight champion. ECW champion, believe it or not. Intercontinental champion. World Tag Team champion. Won Money in the Bank twice, back to back. He was once the longest reigning champion of the era. And he's put on 5-star bangers, right? CM Punk, John Cena, 5-star classic at Money in the Bank. Then he follows that up with the Drew McIntyre Hell in a Cell match. Bro, seeing that match live was crazy, right? And I think that's, like I said, what kind of gives him the edge here. He's still a good mic worker. He's great in the ring, fantastic. I gotta give CM Punk his flowers too. He's gonna be one of my favorites, definitely because of the talking. I would say more than anything. The pipe bomb was one of those generational moments for wrestling fans because he either brought you back or solidified your fandom. He spoke a lot of our truths. I said in the previous video when I was ranking every year that 2010 was kind of goofy. CM Punk basically came in and said, this is why the product is trash and this is what's gonna happen if we don't change everything. And WWE really took a turn for its best. I would give him a lot of credit in retrospect for the era that we're currently in. He was the voice of the voiceless, and he has an amazing theme song. Had 2 amazing theme songs. I'm gonna give that last spot to CM Punk. So those are my 2 Mount Rushmore. Just kind of want to recap here really quickly. For my best wrestlers here, I have Shawn Michaels, The Undertaker, Bret Hart, and Kurt Angle. And then for my favorite wrestlers of all time, I have The Rock, John Cena, Randy Orton, and CM Punk. So again, those are the 2 lists. Just kind of wanted to do that so y'all can get to know me. Not really much of a reaction or ranking this time around or a quiz, but just more of me having a conversation with you all. But let me know what you think in the comments down below. I want to know kind of more or less what you all's Mount Rushmores are. And who do you think I snubbed? You know, did you think I left off a Hulk Hogan maybe? A Seth Rollins, Roman Reigns? There's a few options out there that of course have been snubbed. Spoiler, Hulk Hogan's not making it on any of my Mount Rushmores ever, regardless of his contributions. But that's the point. But yeah, if you enjoyed this type of content, please make sure to like the video, comment, and subscribe again. That would be greatly appreciated. We'll see you all again next Monday for some more wrestling content. But last but not least, my name is Oh So Co, and we are Oh So Out.